Okay. Welcome to Light Up with Val, the podcast that helps you reignite your life, find your true purpose, and build a meaningful, prosperous business. I'm your host, Val, and each week I sit down with successful entrepreneurs who have turned their passion into thriving business. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and equipped with the tools you need to reinvent yourself and create a life you love. To be a business owner, it requires not just specific skill set or vision, or for example, constantly connecting with why you are doing what you are doing, but it also requires such a mental capacity to deal with, anxiety, stress, keep this resilience. And this really inspired me to invite an expert with whom we'll be discussing today a very important topic. It's anxiety and entrepreneurship, how to manage stress and build a business with confidence. So let me introduce my guest. It's Dr. Nafisa Sikandari. Is a licensed clinical psychologist and award-winning author with over 15 years of experience in private practice. She is specializing in anxiety-based disorders. She utilizes holistic and integrative interventions to help her patients and online community achieve lasting control of their anxiety and OCD symptoms without relying on medication or long-term therapy. So she's empowering people, and I'm so glad she could make it today. Hi. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
First of all, before we jump into the main topic, maybe you can share what actually inspired you. Maybe it was like something is happening, like turning point that basically brought you to this path of becoming a psychologist and actually bringing a holistic part into it.
Well, I have a long history of family and personal history of anxiety. And so for me, growing up in my teens and my early 20s, I had a lot of struggle. I struggled a lot with anxiety and fear. And I always knew that I could do more, but I lived very small. I kept my life really small. I didn't take risks. I didn't go after the things that I wanted. I didn't think I was good enough. That critical mind of mine would just go and go and go and tell me, You're not good enough. You're not." Uh, I was an immigrant at that time. I mean, I'd still be considered an immigrant, I guess, but I had only been in this country for like 10 years at that time. And so I just kept my everything so small, and I knew that something was holding me back. And it even though after I went to graduate school to become a psychologist, I didn't make the connection to that I had anxiety, because the kind of anxiety I have, and this is the reason I really focus on helping high achieving women with anxiety, is it actually takes 5 to 10 years to be accurately diagnosed with anxiety, and OCD specifically, because for high achievers, we don't show up as anxious the way like somebody that's debilitated with anxiety would show up. We know something's holding us back. It affects our mindset. It affects our relationships. It affects our finances. It affects our career choices. And so in my 20s, when I was actually studying and wanting to get jobs, I wanted to get the job that didn't require any attention on me. I didn't want a lot of responsibility, because I thought I would just completely mess it up. I didn't trust my instincts. And I lived with a lot of nervous energy and a lot of fear about everything. And so once I made that connection that, okay, like I said, it runs in my family. OCD and anxiety runs in my family, but I wasn't demonstrating it like they were. Like a lot of people in my family, maybe they're very obsessive about cleaning and about things being a certain way and about control. And I wasn't like one of those people. Cleaning was not something that I was obsessed with, but I had the negative thoughts just going and going and going, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I knew that something was holding me back. And so I'm noticing that in my practice now with a lot of really high functioning people. They come in, they're like, "Oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so burnt out." And a lot of it is because they're being fueled by anxiety. So over time, eventually, I started specializing in anxiety. The more I learned about my own issues and what was holding me back and what really helped me, the more I was able to help my patients. And now I'm hoping to help people around the world that are struggling with this because a lot of people aren't they're not being treated the right way. So a lot of women, especially women between the ages of 35 to 50, they start struggling. They start feeling really burnt out. They're really overwhelmed and stressed. And they go to the doctor and they give them anti-anxiety medications or antidepressants when really it's lifestyle, it's hormonal imbalance, it's a lot of things that isn't you don't just want to put a band-aid on this. You want to get to the root of it and address it at the root so that you're no longer being held back by it. And that's my goal, is to empower women, because I know how good it felt to empower myself. So now my goal is to empower others to feel the same way. And it's definitely possible without medication or even long-term therapy. I actually am okay with working myself out of a job.
Oh, wow. Well, actually, talking about high achievers, women, entrepreneurs in general, I think it's like we choose this path, and I heard many times people who are like up to this entrepreneurship and achieving goals constantly on the go, it becomes an addiction in a way, to being wired to stress, being wired to this imbalance hormones, especially when it comes to cortisol, adrenaline, and being always on the go. And this, before we even started to record this podcast, I was like, I can't calm myself. I was like feeling, it has been a month since we had an event in Dubai, and still like I'm feeling I can't calm down. I can't find the free time to just maybe sleep and speak with no one. It's everyday meetings. So we're in a way wired to the stress. So what kind of strategies can we start implementing, or I don't know, do something to basically first be aware that it's not okay. It's not how we're supposed to be. And second, do something to basically becoming more calm, that our thinking process is clear, and as a result, also other areas of our life getting better and better.
Yeah, a lot of women, they just think that they have to keep going and going and going, and they don't have time to take care of themselves. They don't have time to slow down. But actually, the more you slow down, the more you take care of yourself, the more productive and efficient you'll be, because your mind is functioning at its optimal level. And it starts with, if you have no control over the amount of, like, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, so you are a little bit in control of your schedule. But what if you're a corporate person and you're not in control of that schedule? What do you do then? And it's for, regardless of where you work, it's about controlling what you have control over. And we have control over our reactions. We have control over the time we go to bed. We have control over the kind of foods we eat. We have control over taking the time. For me, it's really, really important to have a slow morning. But it's also really, really important for me to get enough sleep the night before. So if you're the type of person that likes to work really late because that's the only time you have, because the house is quiet and you're scrolling or you're working until 2, 3 in the morning, I would say flip that around. Go to bed earlier and then get that deep sleep that you need, because our brains are wired with the setting and the rising of the sun. So when the sun is setting, our melatonin production goes up, and it goes up, and it stays up between 10 to 2, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So I would rather you go to sleep early and get that be in deep sleep during that time and wake up even at 4 in the morning, as long as you've had that opportunity to go into that deep rest and relaxation. Because during that high melatonin production, we go into that deep coma-like sleep where our brain is literally washing itself
Mm.
and our body is literally repairing itself. And so we need to give our body that opportunity. And when we feel rested, we can get up early and start working, and having that quiet time before the kids wake up, before the husband wakes up, before we have to rush to work. The slower you can have your morning, the better. And a lot of women also are running on caffeine because they're so exhausted and they end up exhausting and burning out their adrenal glands as well. And so when you're that exhausted, you're just pushing and pushing and pushing. And the only thing you're running on at that point is the adrenaline and the stress because you have no more fuel left. And so you want to make sure not to have caffeine first thing in the morning. If you're dependent on it, that just means that your brain is wired for that caffeine, and so you can't. It takes a couple of weeks, actually, maybe 3 weeks, for you to completely reset your brain to normal. But so for a lot of people that can't afford that, or the headache or the withdrawal of the caffeine can be too much, you can start with having some black tea or matcha tea. That doesn't affect your brain chemistry as much as caffeine does. And so you can start off with that and then wait until about 10 o'clock. This is all about hacking your body chemistry and your brain chemistry. Because when you first wake up, your cortisol levels are high because that's how it is. Your melatonin production comes down, your cortisol levels go up to help you wake up. And so at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, your cortisol levels are naturally high, and then you're drinking caffeine, and that's raising it even more. So you start off the day stressed, anxious, jittery, you're not feeling calm. And so when you start your day off with maybe, like I said, decaffeinated coffee, or maybe having a black tea, which has significantly less caffeine than coffee, but still gives you a little bit of caffeine until you can just uh, change your brain chemistry or just get off caffeine that early in the morning. And then wait until 10 when your cortisol level is naturally coming down so that you can have your first 1 cup of coffee. 1 cup of coffee is probably all you should be drinking during the day because for people that are stressed or anxious, caffeine is going to make them feel even more anxious. And so for that reason, it's important to delay it as much as possible and then have that first cup of coffee at 10 in the morning. And then have a slow morning. Have like get up and maybe start your day in a very slow way. Maybe be more mindful as you're brushing your teeth. Be more mindful in the shower. Really feel that water hitting your body. Really feel the stress just washing down the drain if you're taking a shower in the morning or when you're brushing your teeth. Just be really mindful about those bristles on your gums. So these are little things that you can do. And then find time throughout the day to take a moment to reset and recharge. Because when we're constantly driven by stress, it literally it makes it difficult for our body to rest and repair itself. So you have to reset that central nervous system of yours. You have to calm your system down as much as possible. So I like to say that every hour, maybe you can set your alarm on your phone for a 2 minute break, 2 minutes of just breathing and just closing your eyes and resetting and breathing. Or you can do like a 5 minute health snack where you're just maybe getting up and stretching for 5 minutes, getting up and just calming yourself down or going walking around the house for a little bit, doing some stretches, doing some squats or lunges or whatever, just doing something that's going to help you just reset and reframe. Those are just some starting points that you can do. Obviously, journaling is a great way to really get rid of all the stress that you're dealing with. And I like to, when I say journal, get into it in a way that you cuss people out if you want to. If you're really angry, get that rage out in your journal. If you're really upset and sad, get all that energy because with every thought, there's a lot of energy. And you want to get that energy out into your journal so that you can you're just resetting that balance, right? You don't want to just keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing your feelings and then exploding or being too weepy or being just overwhelmed and exhausted. So journaling is also another really good thing, especially if you're the type of person that is on high cortisol all day long because you're stressed. Those are the people that the minute they put their head down on the pillow, all that stress and anxiety catches up to them, and then they have insomnia and they can't sleep. And then so they're set up for a terrible day the next day. It just creates a horrible cycle.
Hmm. Well, thank you for very, it's easy, but people neglect it anyway, right? It's so funny, but and it's kind of free, right? Just do it, and I don't know. We are like avoiding very healthy and simple things that turns to habits. So
Yeah.
talking about these things, I think one of the habits for many people is living with an anxiety and not really paying so much attention to it just because they either on the go or, as you said, if you're a corporate, you just don't have this control over your schedule, and probably, your boss always demanding one something from you. So when this what are the signs when an anxiety actually can be turned into something bigger, like up to depression or something really that you need, after this, what you need, heavy medication or deeper treatment? I don't know.
I think you can treat your anxiety. Obviously, if you're in crisis, you can take something to calm you and get you out of that crisis mode. But there are things that you have to do. Like you said, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is very simple, but a lot of people don't make the time to do those things, or they're just like, well, my work schedule will not allow me. But you're not, it's just a matter of priority. We all have the same amount of time in our day. Why is it that some people can be highly efficient and highly successful still and good at time management, while others they just feel like they're running on a one of those treadmills and they just can't get off. And so you have to make yourself and your mental health a priority. You have to prioritize your mental health 24/7. You can't just say, I'll take care of it on the weekend only. And when you don't take care of yourself, you're right, it does become, your anxiety becomes debilitating. You begin to have a lot of fear, and a lot of your mind just doesn't shut down. You don't get that sleep that you need. You're more reactive, you're more angry, it's affecting you in every way. And for some people, it can become so debilitating they can't even leave the house. So then they end up eventually getting fired from their jobs, or failing at the entrepreneurship game or whatever. And so we don't want to allow ourselves to get to that level. And one thing that I do want everybody, like I do this, I don't know how it is around the world and what access people have, but if you have access to a doctor to get your blood tested, get a blood test, get a complete blood test, especially for women. Test your hormones,
Mm.
test your thyroid, test your vitamin D levels, test your iron levels, because when those things are off, you will be more reactive. So a lot of times we blame our external environment for, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed because of this, but really our body chemistry is not balanced, so we're more reactive. I mean, think about when you're in love. Why is it that the world could be falling apart and you're not affected? That's because your body chemistry is like preventing you from even feeling any of that,
Mm.
right? We want to feel so aligned and so strong on the inside that no matter what's happening outside of us, we want to feel empowered and we want to feel strong about it. And so that's what I want people to focus on, that you do have control. It's a doctor isn't going to be able to fix your anxiety when it gets to the debilitating range. They'll be able to help you calm down enough so that you're out of that crisis mode, but the work is still yours. You still have to work on improving your lifestyle and improving your uh, just learning the skills and the strategies that are necessary and getting to the root of that anxiety so that it's no longer holding you back and continuing to come back and rearing its ugly head and destroying your life in various ways.
Mm. Talking about working on yourself, doing your work, I think nowadays we all want to have these quick results and do as less work. That's why pills are basically created, whether it's literal, the physical pills, or so-called pills. Where this desire of people in general, like psychological wise, comes from, give me this now, immediately, right? Because we're talking a lot about, yes, entrepreneurship, it takes time, building the strategy, having discipline, showing up every day, and all these things. And that's how you build up either skill or, in general, your expertise. The results are coming with time, sometimes years, right? But people always want, doesn't matter if it's work or something else, give me now, now, now. What is happening inside of people's brain that constantly pushes them to have it now as fast as possible? Is it connected to uh, this inner dissatisfaction, whether it's like disconnection? What is really going on?
Well, society right now is not letting us have patience. We're in a culture right now that everything can be given to us now. Like if we want to get entertainment, we just turn the TV on or we just turn the phone on. If you want, like 100 years ago, we were okay with sitting around and waiting for things to happen. We didn't expect instant gratification. But since childhood, especially the younger kids that grew up with the tablets, they grew up with like we're addicted to that dopamine hit now. We don't know how to balance that out so that we can give ourselves the patience that is required and to challenge ourselves to wait. Everything is now. Give it to me now. And I wish there was a pill that could take care of all of our mental health needs and make us happy and make us just work efficiently. But there is no such pill. If there was such a pill that worked on everybody and helped people, anxiety would not be the number one disorder in the world. Depression would not be the next one. And we would not have a mental health crisis right now if pills could fix it. The challenge is still on us to take the time to take care of ourselves mentally and physically. And I do want to emphasize that our head and our body are connected. And so we need to make sure that whatever's happening to our body is going to affect our mental health, and whatever's happening to our mental health is going to affect us physically. And so if we don't prioritize that, if we don't take care of ourselves, especially for women, where we think that self-care, sleeping in, taking the time to rest, that's a luxury. It's not a luxury, that's a necessity. We're honoring our body. We're also honoring our body by honoring the fact that we're wired with the rising and the setting of the sun. Yes, electronics are a thing, and we do have access to things 24/7, but that doesn't mean we should be connected 24/7. I'm seeing a huge rise in mental illness with teenagers and young adults because they don't know how to disconnect from their phone. They're
Mm.
getting those notifications 24/7. They don't, as soon as they get a text, even if it's at 3 in the morning, they're responding to it. So it's waking up and it's breaking up that cycle that we do need to rest.
Mm.
And so we're actually harming ourselves by not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, and going back to this ambitions, women on the go. I just can't find a better word because there's no thing somehow. We have this word balance, but this world feels like everything but not balance, no matter which direction you look. But okay, what is the balance between ambition and well-being? Because even like talking about my personal experience, I had this podcast and I was asked, what did you do after you won world championship? And I said, literally, I went to the training hall the very next day because there was a next thing to go for. The same nowadays. I have this, I don't want to say it's the same kind of habit, but it just happens this way, right? You achieve some milestone, project completed, the next one, the next, and the bigger and the better and whatever, and constantly shaping and making things better, but also, as you said, not prioritizing the well-being. So how can we start restoring this balance?
I don't know how it was with you with your training and if you had a really good coach that taught you that self-care was important. What I've noticed, like I
And
love you
that's
didn't
the
have that.
problem, I think, in the world of many, like, I don't want to say all because that's not true, but at least in our like sport, there is nothing like mental health. It's more like pushing, it's a lot about comparison. It's very, honestly, it's very unhealthy world.
It is, and I'm seeing the ramifications of it. I mean, there's football players that commit suicide in their 40s after their career ends. There are Olympic champions that just feel so deflated after the Olympics ends. And I'm so glad that what happened with Simone Biles in the 2020 Olympics because she put a spotlight on mental health with athletes because they are pushed so much. And so what she it took her a long time. She went to therapy. She learned how to take care of herself. And look at her. She came back and she was stronger than ever. And she was a champion. And everybody ruled her out because she took so much time away. But that's the messaging that a lot of athletes are sent, is that you cannot stop. You can't take a break. You have to really push your body, push your body, push your body, and to the detriment of your mental health. It doesn't have to be that way. I truly believe we can be successful in business, in athletics, and in every area of our lives when our mindset is taken care of, when we have a good coach that can balance that out for us, that when it's time to rest, rest, when it's time to work, work. And you don't have to sacrifice your mental and physical health for any achievement. Because then at the end of it, you're not satisfied once you do get that achievement. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like that's what happened to you, Valerie, is that you won the championship and then you're like, let me just go back to the next one because I need to keep going.
Exactly. This is kind of the path is always like, okay, so and I think it starts, as you said, the right coach, the right mentor, the right people who you surround yourself as a team. For example, we were not taught that like having someone who is taking care about your mental health should be in your team, right? So our parents were not the ones who were giving, this type of support, as well as like if you're a child or teenager, you cannot really take care about this sort of things because you're not aware and we don't know what we don't know. But now, gladly, we are bringing more and more awareness what actually mental health is, and as you said, with some really tweaking the routines, starting taking care about ourselves, we can do so much more. So let's like talk about some kind of tips how to overcome some sort of, let's say, uncertainty, fears. Like if we talk about entrepreneurship, and I think because most of our listeners are people who are either entrepreneurs or want to start their own business, it's of course associated with risk, associated with many types of fears. And I think nowadays, because currency becomes also visibility, lots of people are afraid of being visible. So how to manage this?
Yeah, I mean, before we get into that, I just want to say that, especially with athletics, we're taught to be training like a machine, and we're not machines. And even if you're an entrepreneur, you have to recognize your humanity and that our vulnerability and that we are human and we need to treat ourselves as humans and we're not machines. We're not, I know AI is taking over so many things and we're afraid of that as well. And so we don't want to compare ourselves to a machine. The more mentally and physically balanced we are, the more efficient and productive we are going to be. And so, for what you said, as far as like some tips on what we can do, there, fear and uncertainty is definitely, it comes with the territory of entrepreneurship. If you can't handle fear and uncertainty, then you should not be in the business of entrepreneurship. It's like if you don't like risk, if you don't like uncertainty, then don't invest in the stock market, right? It's those people that are taking the risks, that are doing it despite the fear. They're the ones that are actually achieving. And so I've learned to look at fear a completely different way. Now I use fear as fuel because if I'm afraid of something, then that's a challenge for me to do it anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear. If I had no fear and I did something, that doesn't make me courageous. But if I understand the fear and I use the fear and I do it anyway, that's where the courage comes in. And so we have to build ourselves up to be more courageous and understand that when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting your own business, and there's so much uncertainty. We don't know, like you said, it could take a year to succeed, it could take 10 years. And so if you're not made for that, that's like they say, if you don't have a thick skin, don't go into Hollywood because they will crush you. And so you have to have a thick skin and you have to know that when people are making fun of you or saying things about you, it's not about you and you can't personalize that. You have to build a shield to protect yourself against that. It's the same thing with entrepreneurship. You have to understand that fear and uncertainty, especially uncertainty about the future, it comes with the package of entrepreneurship. There is no guarantees, but the anxious mind wants 100% guarantees. And in life, no matter what field you're in, you will never get 100% guarantees in anything. So you have to learn to live with that and accept the fact that you're not going to see the results right away. You just have to focus on your goal and focus on the journey of getting to that goal and prepare yourself for the journey. Like if I'm afraid of driving at night or I'm afraid of going from one state to another. I mean, I know you're in Europe, I'm here in America. It's kind of like a big continent. I mean, it is a continent, but it's a bunch of states, like a little bunch of little countries. We go from one state to another. If I want to go from here to New York, and I'm afraid of driving at night, then I shouldn't be driving. I shouldn't be doing that. But if I prepare myself and I'm like, okay, I don't want to, I only want to drive for a couple of hours at night. I want to stay at this hotel. I want to really create a roadmap for myself, a realistic goal of how I'm going to achieve X, Y, and Z, then that helps me be more confident and less afraid. So I would say creating a roadmap, a realistic roadmap for yourself, instead of saying, I want to be a millionaire by December 2025 with no specific plan. And then I'm getting afraid of the choices I'm making. I'm getting afraid of the risks I'm taking. Then I don't have a real plan. Of course, I'm going to be more anxious. But if I have a real clear plan of I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do it in these levels, and I'm going to do these proven strategies, then I'm following a plan and I'm more confident and less stressed and less anxious about the outcome in the future, especially if you are following the road plan of somebody that's already been there or a coach that's guiding you that's already been there. It's no different than taking on any other task. It's just a matter of having a very clear vision about where you're going and then understanding the pitfalls and the shortcomings. Like, again, taking that journey from one place to another, if I know flat tires might happen, car accidents might happen, bad weather might happen, and I'm prepared for that, then it's a lot easier to make that journey than if I'm just going blind into it and then going, oh my gosh, I had no idea this stuff was going to happen.
Mm. And I'm glad that you brought this topic with the road maps and realistic goals. And I think that's what actually contributes to the confidence because very often, and it's also you have to be careful with the coaches and mentors and understanding that sometimes someone comes from space where it's like, oh, it's too small, you're dreaming too small, this is too small, everything go big, and they start pushing you again. While when you take this position of an adult and evaluate every single risk and whatsoever, you're showing up for your business, for your work, for team, for project, whatever you're building as a much more confident person. So we are like don't even need to work on something hard. Like, there are many tactics how to work on self-confidence because you are prepared, you're ready, and you're kind of equipped. And also, yes, we all have this big vision, like you mentioned, you want, make the whole world more aware about, mental health and how people can do it in a more holistic and realistic ways. But of course, it's like step-by-step journey. It's not that you're going now and, spread the news from all the, I don't know, drones, helicopters, AI is talking about this everywhere, right? So yeah, it's kind of having this balance between, yes, I keep my eyes on the prize, but I'm also realistic what I'm doing day by day. Yes. So tell us also more about your journey, maybe like personal examples or examples like from, I'm not, of course, maybe not clients because we're not allowed sometimes to share when it comes to psychology, but maybe your own examples when, what you've just shared transformed, helped, brought more results, and in general, just like made you a person who you are nowadays, who's confidence expert, goes out there, like speaking on stages. So,
I do want to add to what you said about coaches before I get into that, and that there are a lot of coaches that are charging a ton of money for people that promise them that they're going to help them with anxiety, for example, and they're not mental health professionals. They just learned a few strategies, a few tricks, and they provide band-aid approaches to just kind of breathe more or fix your lifestyle. And I did mention all of that with you. Those are Band-aid approaches, those are simple steps that people can take, but it takes a lot more than that. It takes somebody that actually understands how to get to the root of problems. And like you said, there are certain coaches in every field that maybe not have a good understanding of how to really manage somebody's mindset and really understand the struggles of that individual person to get them to the next level. And they might actually do more harm than good. And so it's so important to pay attention and ask yourself with the person you're working with, is this the right person for me? Like if you wanted to be an Olympic gymnast, and your coach was pushing you in a way that was actually making you feel worse about yourself and making you actually not achieve at your optimal performance ability, then that's not the right coach for you. And so you need to find people that actually understand what's going on and can help you understand and help you get to the next level. And so for me personally, not only did I start working on myself and actually getting myself out of my head and apply and pushing myself to the in a way that was doable for me. And it wasn't in a way that made it difficult for me or put me in places that were uncomfortable. Like growth involves discomfort, right? Growth is always on the other side of your comfort zone. So we should always expand that comfort zone and challenge ourselves. Like me coming to Dubai and talking to a group of people that I've never met and meeting you for the first time, that could have been a very nerve-wracking situation for me 10 years ago. But I challenged myself and I pushed myself and I expanded my comfort zone to be able to do something like that. And I'm constantly pushing myself in that way, but in a way that's not overwhelming and not stressing me out. There's a lot of visualization that takes place with that. So for some of my patients and some of the people that I've worked with, and I could just include some of the stuff that I've gone through, the challenges of things that were holding me back, like I said, some of it was just pure exhaustion. Some of it was just not knowing how to shut off my overactive brain. It was just going, going, going. And no matter what I would do, it was just so negative. And so I always use this little guy. So he's always here as this little guy that's in my head that I need to befriend. I need to train him. I need to teach him to support me and be my internal guide and my internal coach, as opposed to my bully just yelling at me and screaming at me and telling me I'm no good. And so he's a reminder. And so for a lot of people, having something like this to talk back to, especially when he's being really loud and obnoxious, it's really helpful. And so for me, just creating balance in my lifestyle where when I wasn't eating well, I realized the next day I wasn't functioning well. And so completely changing my diet. And actually, it took me getting severely sick, and I ended up getting diagnosed with endometriosis. And I had a huge cyst on my ovary because of my lifestyle, my diet, my lack of self-care, the deep rage I kept holding on to inside of me. And once I was able to take care of all that, once I was able to change my diet, exercise in the right way, and not over exercise, I exercised to the point of making sure I was also calming my body. So there's a lot of calming exercises like yoga and Pilates that we can do instead of constantly running, running, running. And that balances out our brain chemistry, our body chemistry, and that doesn't create all this inflammation in our body, doesn't tax our hormones. It doesn't create an imbalance in our physical hormones, but also brain chemistry. And so focusing on stuff like that is really important in making sure that we're showing up as our best self. Because now I'm feeling calmer, I'm more energized, I'm not uh, creating a lot of stress and overwhelm for myself when I'm doing something that's out of my comfort zone. Like I was mentioning to you before we started, that I was really wiped out because I put on my second annual conference in January. I was wiped out afterwards because it takes so much energy to put something like that together, just like I know you did with the Dubai conference. It takes a lot of effort. So I made sure to really create time for myself to not work too hard afterwards and just give myself that time to rest and repair my body. So it's important for us to create that and build that into our lifestyle and be okay with resting, being okay with taking the day to do nothing. And I remember even coming back from Dubai for a whole week, I just took it super slow. The only thing I would do was just go for a walk with my dog and keep a couple of appointments, but I didn't want to push myself too hard because I know my body needed that rest, especially since I had the conference in January and then in February I did the Dubai. And then just the trip alone exhausted me. I gave myself that time to rest and repair. And I think it's so important, especially as women between the ages of 35 and 50, to take that time to rest and repair because being burnt out adrenally and just being exhausted, it's just not going to help us. And it's going to create a lot of physical ailments in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's not worth it. And I don't think anybody should put themselves through that.
Mm. You mentioned to have like something to what you can talk to, like, it's a nice friend, how you would calming down and keeping this balance. It's actually reminded me the topic also, what I wanted to cover is different paths. Because for example, if you are transitioning, you are kind of disconnecting from this part who used to, take orders. There is not so much responsibility, you're just responsible for like performing specific tasks. But when you're entrepreneur, it's a completely different part of yourself activates that is taking care about everything, all the processes. Then there is another part who is becoming a real business owner, who is like outsourcing, managing team, and really running business and not just a solopreneur. And it's all these different parts. And in general, like I think there are parts who are still sometimes showing up and pulling us back. For example, I started to have a healthy diet. Something happened, something triggered, and you're back there. Or, I don't know, you decided, okay, I'm going to sleep earlier. I'm kind of doing this. And then something like, I don't know, something happened. And then this old self woke up. It's just primitive examples, but it can go also big wise, right? Something triggers our wounds or whatsoever. What is with this pause? Like, because during the healing, you learn like let go all this pause, release. But how it's actually happening, it's like I don't think you can just like release part of you like physically. It's not happening, right? It's just something inside of yourself you work through. Is it like really possible that these parts are kind of fully deactivated, or it's just you are keeping in charge, in control, and knowing, no, this is like my new identity, this is my new way of functioning and living?
Well, like you said, a lot of people can say, I'm letting that go and I'm going to sleep better, I'm going to eat better. And then they just find themselves going back to the person they were. That's like just having a positive mindset. I'm strong, I'm positive, I'm rich, I'm whatever. If I keep repeating that, but I don't believe that in my core, it's not going to manifest into anything for me. And so a lot of people get frustrated with that, like, oh, manifestation doesn't work.
Yeah.
But you have to, like I said, get aligned inside and know your why. If I didn't get sick, and I didn't have that the endometriosis, and my hormones completely went out of whack. And I had to have surgery to remove the cyst. But before I did that for a year, I didn't have the money for the surgery. I had to do other things. And it was during that year that I learned the holistic methods of taking care of myself, changing my diet, because I had no choice. I
Mm.
had to do that because if I didn't, that huge 10-centimeter cyst would have burst and completely destroyed my pelvic area, and I would have become infertile. I wouldn't have had my daughter. I would have, like, all these issues would have happened. And so I didn't have a choice. You don't want to get yourself to that level where you don't have a choice. But at the same time, I had a why. And that why motivated me because then I couldn't go back. You have to burn the ships and say, I'm no longer, let's say you want to give up smoking. The minute you make your mind up to say, I no longer want to smoke, and you just burn the ships and say, I'm not going there no matter what, then you will go forward with a different strategy, with a different tactic in life. It's the same thing with like just eating. I don't know, if you decide you're going to be a vegan and everything in your body is telling you vegan is the thing for me, people can put a platter of beef and meat and all kinds of stuff in front of you. You're not even going to be tempted by it because that's not who you are anymore. And that's what you're saying, that part of you that used to be stressed, that used to live this terrible lifestyle, how do you get rid of that instead of falling right back into it? The reason you're falling right back into it is because you never changed. You're just putting surface level mantras in your life like, oh, I should eat better, I should sleep better, I should go back and I shouldn't wake up, I shouldn't use my phone so much. Those are all things, but at the core, that's not a
Yeah.
thing for you. It's like losing weight. If you continue to see yourself as a certain weight, and that is not aligned with like the weight that you want to be, you're constantly going to sabotage yourself to stay at that certain weight. This happens. I had this conversation with somebody else that I was interviewing on my podcast about money, and that there are some people that have a mindset that they're not worthy of more than a certain amount of money. So maybe they only think 100,000 would be great. I don't think I can do any more. So as soon as they start making 100,000, they're going to sabotage themselves to stay at that level instead of go further. This is deep subconscious stuff. This is stuff that goes beyond your control. You're not even aware you're doing this stuff. And it goes back to childhood mentality. A lot of us get programmed at the age of 4 or 5. And then we hold on to those beliefs, we hold on to those thoughts, and that continues to drive us and is the driving force in every action and decision we make without us even being aware. So if you want to change and get rid of that part, you have to make that change at the subconscious level. And that takes work. That might even take work with a professional that can help you with that. But you have to, and one of the ways that if you wanted to do it yourself, maybe some people around the world that are listening don't have access to mental health professionals or a hypnotherapist. The way to change the programming subconsciously is to do the action you want to see become a part of your new habit repeatedly for 30 to 60 days, every single day. And then that becomes that habit, that new habit becomes a part of your lifestyle. And if you go for 30 days or 25 days and you mess up, you have to start over.
Yeah.
Because the programming takes a long time of constant repetition for that to change. And it takes awareness, it takes your conscious brain to tell you, okay, I'm going to implement this new way. Like if I wanted to exercise and run every single day, if I do it for a week and then I'm like, I'm bored, I'm just going to forget it. It's not a thing for me. It's not my why. I'm going to give up on it. But if that is my why, like I need to do this for my health. Like Valerie, if you offer $1 million for somebody to do something, I can promise you for 60 days, they will do that consistently until they get that $1 million from you. And we need to set the same kind of standard for ourselves and see what is our why and work towards that.
This can be like literally 1 million, right? If you will be doing something and reprogramming yourself. And this is like the beauty. I'm glad that like we're wrapping this up and we're coming to the conclusion that we are powerful beings, that no matter what is the background, no matter what is the past, no matter what has been spinning around deep inside of us, even if we're not aware, we can actually rebuild it, take control of it. And I'm glad that we connected, because I believe also because our platform is all about helping people, primarily women, but actually in general human beings, to get out of this so-called slavery and become creators. Yes, it takes efforts, but it's possible. So if you need help, you need support, especially if you want to work on your well-being, mental health, we will leave the link in the description box. Connect with Nafisa. She's present in our social media platforms as well. Also, I think we have a beautiful article on our platform you can read if you just succeeded and you don't want to be in this success hangover and make this healthy transition. Make sure to check it out. And to wrap it up, how would you like to, whoever is listening right now, to light this person up?
I just what you just said, that we are powerful. Our brains are so amazing. Our bodies are so amazing. Don't fight either one of them. Work with your body, work with your brain, and you will be unstoppable. But it's when we are sabotaging ourselves and poisoning ourselves and destroying our body and destroying our brain chemistry, that's when we're going to get into trouble. So when you prioritize your mental health and your physical health, that's where it starts. It's not about learning new strategies and getting more visible on social media, creating things that are not realistic with you. Just get aligned with who you are on the inside. And once you live your life in alignment with who you truly are, you're going to be successful no matter what. And success doesn't necessarily mean monetarily. If you're content and at peace with your life, that I consider to be success. And then the money and all the other stuff will come as well. But um, you need to just value and support and love your brain and love your body and take care of yourself so that you can show up as your best version every single day.
Thank you very much for your time, for being here today with us. And to all our listeners, community, once again, connect with Nafisa if you need support, want to learn more about your work. And yes, this is the era when we need to put our mental health as a priority, especially nowadays with all the changes we are facing with the technology. So to make sure that we actually stay in control of it and not vice versa, we do need to prioritize our well-being and also our human traits, so to say. Until the next time.